start a series of short videos on meditation. And this first one is just kind of tips and tricks how to sit, and furthermore, kind of what to do while you're sitting. And this is all outside of actual meditation practices that will come later. So in a perfect world, you'd be able to sit with knees touching the floor, but that is not always the case. As always, you will want to be sitting on something. In this case, I am sitting on a cushion. They have a fun name called a zafu. And if you happen to have one of these, best thing to do is kind of work the stuffing to the bottom. That way you get a nice downward slope that you're sitting on. It lifts your seat, allows your back to be straight, and hopefully, again, knees can make contact. So first tip, if your hips are not so flexible, your knees are kind of up here, you're going to feel a little shaky, not so grounded. So we have all kinds of props for that. If you have yoga blocks, you can place yoga blocks under your knees. Different levels of our yoga blocks. And of course, if the seat is still not high enough, you want your seat a little higher than your knees, then you can of course add some height. So if you don't have a zafu, you can use a bolster. If you don't have a bolster, maybe a couple sofa cushions or a couple pillows. So I'm just going to place this under my seat, get me up a little higher. And again, if I don't have really bendy knees, I can use those yoga blocks right there. Alternative to yoga blocks would be blankets. Like so. So I'm going to switch to my normal comfortable seat. Everyone's comfortable seat is going to look different. Usually I just sit on a blanket. Sometimes I fold up the back of the blanket a little bit to give me that nice kind of downward slope to sit on. And so we'll just kind of refine from here. Usually we want to start our meditation kind of from the ground up. So just establishing that comfortable seat, feeling those 3 points of contact, the hips, the knees, gives you this nice triangle you're sitting on. So hopefully feeling that for yourself as we go along in this video. Some people ask, why we sit when we meditate as opposed to laying down or, standing up. Sitting is the perfect sweet spot between the two. If we're lying down, our body kind of wants to go to sleep, wants to go unconscious. If we're standing up, the opposite is the case. It's really hard to relax. So sitting down is that kind of ideal space in between. So you'll notice that if you're just sitting on the floor, your back kind of wants to lean forward. It tends to be a little bit uncomfortable. So really just having that little extra wedge underneath your seat helps to get that nice tall back. If you are totally uncomfortable sitting on the floor, just fine, this happens for some, you can sit in a chair. The one recommendation, if you're sitting in a chair, try not to use the back of the chair. Try to scoot forward a little bit. The reason we do this is because a lot of meditation practices are based on breathing. That free breath in all directions. So if you're sitting on a chair leaned up against the back of the chair, likely your back is not nice and tall, and also with that pressure on your back, you're kind of having to breathe against something. So finding your seat, maybe closing your eyes. It's always nice to kind of rock forward and back a little bit. So you're just trying to find that sweet spot between feeling like you're going to fall forward and feeling like you're going to lean too far back. So you can just kind of do that. You can wiggle down into your seat, and again, just establishing that firm foundation. So rising our awareness up from that foundation, we might ask, what to do with the hands. All kinds of things to do with your hands. They're called mudras. A lot of people do the upward-facing palms. In my school of yoga, we just kind of place hands down on the knees. Whatever you're doing, it's good to have that connection of thumb and forefinger. Just kind of seals everything in. You might feel a little scattered if your hands are open. So trying that out, seeing if you can feel that sensation of inward focus with the hands themselves. Notice the breath is free to open up in all directions. You're breathing into the belly. You're feeling that as the foundation of breath to rise up into the heart and also expand throughout the back. And with this kind of theme of moving awareness upwards, notice what your shoulders feel like when you first sit down. Usually there's a little bit of tension. It's always good to kind of lift the shoulders, let them roll back, maybe even wiggle the shoulders a little bit, allowing them to settle. Sometimes we feel kind of awkward with what we're doing with the head. Just notice if your chin is tucked too far forward, you're going to want to feel that sensation of leaning forward. Vice versa, if your chin is too high, you're going to kind of feel like you're leaning back. So just try to find maybe chin parallel to the floor. Different practices have different directions for what to do with the eyes. If the eyes are open, maybe you have something to rest your focus on. A lot of the times in yoga we have what's called a yantra. It's just a geometric pattern with a dot in the middle, and that really helps to kind of focus your eyes inwards. If you're doing a closed eye meditation, let the eyes drift closed and notice what they're doing. If your eyes feel super twitchy, it's okay to just let them be heavy. Maybe they're cracked open a little bit, and maybe they'll settle closed over time. And again, with the eyes, during your practice, when you're meditating, you're generally going to notice that you've drifted your attention away from your practice when your eyes are kind of tightened and looking up in one direction. That's the brain kind of thinking. So if you can kind of gain an awareness of what your eye muscles are doing, it's a cue that you need to circle back into whatever, attention onto what practice you're doing might be. So I hope these couple of tips are helpful in how to sit. Again, there's no right or wrong way to sit, just a few kind of guidelines for your comfort. And don't be surprised if your feet, your legs, some part of your lower body falls asleep if you're new to meditation. That's just fine. You can kind of use that as a cue. Your brain is tugging your awareness. Ooh, my leg, it's falling asleep. You can just kind of circle back in. Okay, brain, I know my foot is asleep, my leg is asleep, but that's not the end of the world. Come back to my practice. My leg is not going to fall off. So thank you for watching these few tips and tricks. This will be, again, the first in a series of, a few short meditation videos that we're bringing you here at the